to be doing well. JV is trying to catch up a little bit, but overall everyone seems to like the new coach that they have. Boys soccer, same thing. They like their new coach. They are trying to catch up a little bit as girls soccer has won every game, which is really cool.
They did win tonight though, Rachel.
They didn't?
They did.
Okay, so, they did.
The boys won tonight.
Okay, so
yes,
they got one. They're catching up. They're getting there. Okay, and then cross country, they have 12 boys and 6 girls this year on their team. The season has just started. Several runners have gotten awards, but like the season's just kicking off, so I should have more information next meeting. And yeah, that's everything I have right now because school is really starting up. But I did also want to talk about what I plan to do as terms of connecting with the students, because I do have those connections in the high school, but there's obviously some cliques that I'm not going to reach. So at the elementary school, I plan to meet once a month with a group of 4th graders just to talk to them about what's going on at the elementary school. I know that Delton did something similar last year. The first meeting that I should have is in 2 weeks, so I've got that set up. And then with LMS, I plan to meet with them virtually. I'm trying to see if I can do it in person, but I don't know if that's going to work out. So right now it's virtually 1 kid from each grade, and that should happen once a month. The first one is this Friday. And then for the high school, I'm just going to meet with the pause classes, 1 class from each grade once a month. So that should be happening next week. So hopefully I should be able to connect with everyone in the school by the end of the year, so that'll be really good. And in terms of what I'll be talking to them about, LES again, just what's going on. I'll do the same thing with LMS in the high school, but I think with the middle school and the high school, I'm going to have more, or just an addition of talking to them about mental health and how they're feeling stressed and anxiety-wise. Is there anything that's stressing them out particularly that we can change? So that's really what I want to focus on. And I believe that's all I have for the report this time.
Wow, thank you, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel?
No, that's awesome.
Or comments? That was a fantastic report.
Yeah, good job, Rachel.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. One other thing I wanted to add to what you had said about I've been to the soccer games, both boys and girls, and the turnout has been absolutely unbelievable. The stands, are pretty full. Pretty full. So that's fantastic. The support that students are giving to each other is just so great to see. So thank you so much, Rachel.
All right. And is it okay if I just say if I leave right now? Just because I have been here since 5, 7.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We try to have you go early.
Okay, we will move right along to the reports of the committees. Let's start with Mark. Negotiations?
Okay, negotiations, we met on the 26th of August, our last meeting, and regarding the IA contract, and that we had a lot of discussion. There was one thing that was on the table that was sort of a hang-up, and we've settled that, and we're able to move forward, and we have it later in the agenda to ratify that. So that's about it.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be moving on from that, finishing that up. Thank you. Danelle, curriculum and strategic plan.
So we met tonight with a very succinct meeting. Thanks to Rita. She helped us review the new positions. Some of those were added through the ESSER grants, and some of them were things that we needed to fill. Some of the supports that we have now in place are math supports, literacy coach. We talked about curriculum alignment, language arts, math, and SEL for K through 12. We also talked about some new programs we might be using, that we are using, iReady for math at LES and language arts and math at LMS. And we also have some supports from EastCon for language arts K through 4 as well as the middle school. She also reviewed professional development days that they had to begin the school year on August 31st, mostly focusing on SEL lessons, but also there's upcoming PD days in October where they'll be going over iReader and some of the other programs we're doing. But overall, they're very busy, and we're going to make sure that people are on board with everything. We're working together, and my favorite part is the alignment of K through 12, so it's consistent from school to school, and that we can communicate effectively between the schools, between the grades.
Great. Thank you, Danelle. Any questions for Danelle? Great, thank you. John, superintendent evaluation.
We did not meet, so there's no report.
Okay, thank you. And Alexis, safety and security.
Safety and Security did meet on August 24th. We did review and discuss the camera quotes that we had received. It's basically considered phase 2, where a few years ago we had upgraded all cameras in all 3 buildings, but we did find that there are some areas that could use improvement, so that's an action item today. It was a recommendation from the subcommittee to purchase those, so hopefully we have everyone's support. We can have further discussion later. And Superintendent Gonzalez gave us some other updates as to what we were doing for grants possibilities and other things, and the work that he was doing with the safety committee, we discussed that as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Alexis? Okay, great, thanks Alexis. Maureen, policy.
Policy met on September 8th. You'll see the minutes in your packet. We discussed policy 5002 on the wearing of coats, et cetera, and we recommended that we remove the first 3 items and instruct administration to use their discretion to work any of the parts of those into their student handbook. And we will have the first reading of the rest of the policy in its new format today, and hopefully second reading next time. And then we had a lengthy discussion on the Governor's Executive Order 13D, and then we adjourn.
Thank you, Maureen. Any questions for Maureen? No? Okay. Dawn, communications, goals, and enrollments.
We had a brief and informative meeting this evening. Superintendent Gonzalez provided us with a summary of employee exit interview and survey responses. So we were able to review that and talk about the feedback that's provided and how it's being implemented moving forward. And then we had a brief discussion about the possibility of student exit interviews, not only for graduating students, but also between, like within district as well.
Any questions for Dawn? Thank you, Dawn. And Nicole, finance and facilities.
Finance and Facilities met this evening. First on our agenda was the line striping in the parking lot at Lyman. Kevin reported that it'll cost about $38,000, which will be coming out of capital. Superintendent Gonzalez wants to put it in as an annual budget for facilities so that we can stay on cycle and repair those parking lots every year. The third item on our agenda was talking about the HVAC at LES. The total project will cost $475,000. We are going to look into if there are grants from the state to help us out with this, and Sarah and I will be setting up a meeting with Board of Finance to present this to the Board of Finance to see if they can help us out with this project. Next on the agenda was the LED project that's going on in all 3 schools. Kevin reported that more than 90% of the project is complete in all 3 schools. We're giving it to probably the end of October for all the rest of the supplies to come in and all of the fixtures to be replaced. Next was the asbestos removal at LES and LMS. The project for both schools will cost about $307,000. This will also be presented to the Board of Finance. And we discussed that LES could probably take a summer to repair the asbestos there, whereas LMS would probably need a couple of summers. Next on the agenda was the maintenance tracker reports. We got 3 reports from Kevin, and there was some question as to how to read them because some of them had Ys, which mean the project is complete, and some had Ns. So we had MCOR come and pretty much tell us how they generate those reports. And then finally, the status of the schools. Kevin provided a report on all 3 schools and what is going on there. We were concerned with the mold at Lyman, and Andy informed us that there's a dehumidifier put in the affected areas, and Mystic Air is also going to come back and retest all of the areas that were treated. That's it.
Any questions for Nicole? Matt?
Just wanted to add a caveat that the figures that she gave are estimates as of today. With the ongoing increases that we see, they are only figures for today.
Good point, with implications of the future.
Right, could be more.
Significant increases could be seen. Thank you, and thank you, Nicole, that was a great report, very thorough. And Matt, EastCon rep.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been running into a lot of conflicts between different meetings that I've had to meet for the Board of Ed here in town, and I haven't been able to make it, but EastCon is currently looking on changing some of their bylaws. It might make it easier for us to have more than one individual covering that, so that maybe we can better able to get there.
Okay, great. So maybe you would like a member of a subcommittee to be with you?
Yeah, they're in the process of changing some of the bylaws that would make that possible. I can't do that
Just
quite
post
yet.
it on that. Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
They're in the process.
All right, thanks, Matt. This is probably not governance subcommittee, or could be considered governance, but I did want to make the board aware that Nicole and myself had a shared services meeting with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, not really the Board of Selectmen, but members of the Board of Selectmen were present to discuss the possibility of sharing services with our finance department. What we concluded from the meeting was that more research needs to be done. A document was shared with the group. The document was a study from a different town that was conducted through CREC, and the committee was to read through the document, also look into other towns and Board of Eds that share services. What are the pros and what are the cons of sharing services? How could that benefit both the town and the school system? So that's where we are within that process. The group is planning on meeting again September 20th. You'll probably see another special meeting, Board of Ed agenda come through your way. Feel free to hop on if you'd like, offer any input, or just share the input with Nicole or myself. Happy to share that with the group. Any questions on that? Okay, great. Let's move right along to our administrator's report.
Thank you. If we could start maybe at the high school, if Jay and Sam, if you wanted to come up, and they're just verbally going to share how the start of school has gone, highlighting a few things for the board.
Okay, Rachel kind of stole a lot of our thunder. So I do want to say that, the 8th grade orientation, not the 8th grade orientation, new student orientation, 9th grade, for our 9th graders and all new students, that was incredibly well attended. Kids seemed like they had a great time. We had some great stories from parents. One of them was their daughter asked them the mom to come and pick them up 12:30. It started at 11. So the mom got out of work, went into our parking lot, and waited, and waited, and waited. And then I went over to the parent, because I saw them there, and started up a conversation. And she said she's having so much fun now that she doesn't want to leave. And while I was standing there, the girl came over with probably 5 or 6 other kids and goes, "Mom, I want to introduce you to all my new friends." So it was, that was great. It made our day. Sam had a good story too from the 9th grade orientation too.
Yes. So my friend sent a post to me that her friend from Colchester had sent, and it was a text message between her daughter and her, and it said, "How was school today?" And she said, "Going to Lyman was the best decision I've ever made." So it was a really nice positive way for us. We nearly died of heat exhaustion grilling. And, I've never grilled so many hot dogs in my life. But it was a really positive day. And it is something we started a couple years ago and then had to not do the past couple years due to COVID. So Rachel is right. She did not get the same experience as those 9th graders, but it's something we'll continue to do for orientation.
And the open house tonight was probably our best attended open house in, I don't know, since I've been here. The atmosphere was great. people, they just loved the feel of it. And if you looked at our staff, you could tell like our staff loved it too. It's different than going into the classroom and having, ringing a bell and having move from class to class. It was just so nice. And, being outside, we are subject to the weather, which happened to us because it was supposed to have been last Thursday. And it was pouring down rain, but, we got a great night today and it was just fantastic.
We sent out our first newsletter, so we're very excited to start that. Those of you who are parents should receive it. I apologize. I will send the link to everyone so you can view it. We use a similar system that Andy sends out, so we're excited to start that communication and include different things in it, including like college and career readiness, and what steps our juniors and seniors should be at right now in terms of looking at colleges, things like that. So just helping them and parents to guide them through that process. So.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
You'll need more ice cream next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello everyone, nice to see you. As I'm getting older, I'm finding I need lists and sticky notes everywhere. So the opening LMS went very well. I want to touch on how different it is with so many new staff, even orientation. Orientation in the past I run in the afternoon on the Fridays with new staff would be pretty quick when it was onesie twosie, and this year with so many new staff, our orientation was over 2 hours at the middle school, and it was really great to be able to talk with so many new people and interesting to hear their feedback and give them some insights about the middle school. Along with that, kudos to the maintenance staff. Because of so many new people, it has literally been a ton of room swapping, as you can imagine. As late as last week, I converted what was an isolation room to a new math interventionist room because it hadn't been filled until last week, so we're still trying to find spaces so everybody can have their own workspace and not have to be a teacher on a cart, which, those of you that have ever done that, it's not a fun experience. So we really thank the maintenance staff for helping me orchestrate getting everybody set up in their new spaces. We had excellent PD to start off the school year. It's really incredible to have so many teacher leaders be able to share what I call their subject matter expertise, and we're seeing that already at our PD and at our first faculty meeting where we're also doing workshops with teachers. I've been in classrooms, every single classroom, multiple times every day. It's hard as a principal. You're pulled in so many directions, but I've made it a personal, goal to really get into classrooms as much as I can. And as Jay said, having all of the students back has been really amazing. There's some kids that I saw for the first time since March 13th of 2020, and it's just amazing to see them. And it's so nice to see them after being gone for so long. And it was great to see all the icebreaker activities. We have some really creative teachers. My most memorable one was having Mr. Reynolds really break the ice by singing Disney princess tunes. And seeing a big guy like him do that is a pretty fun thing to see. So again, everything's going well. We have a Panther Fest this Friday, so the kids that play soccer are thrilled. It's something that we've done for years against a bunch of other schools that all have Panthers as their team logo, and so very excited to do that Friday night. Thank you.
And
I have a question. Is it true that we're opening up sports to the fifth graders now?
Yes, the CIA, the middle school leagues have, some towns are actually having a co-op because they just don't have enough kids. And there's also busing issues. There's a lot going on, so we're being creative with how we pull off sports this year because we're finally back. We don't want to be back and not have sports.
Right.
So, for example, with Panther Fest, it's really hard to get buses to go anywhere, so we're leaving late Friday, but we're leaving early enough to get to our games because we just can't leave at the times we normally would. So there's a lot we're working around to make things happen, and one of them is having enough kids to play. So I thought it was a great opportunity, and I said definitely go for it.
Yep, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good to see you all tonight. So we're very excited at the elementary school to get started, and it's great to see everyone, especially during recess time. Our students are starting to, we're no longer cohorting, and it's awesome to get out there and see the kids playing across the different playground equipment and playing together and seeing their friends, and it's a really nice time. So we had our preschool screening August 19th, where we screened 23 students and welcomed 17 new students to our program. We also held popsicles with the principal on August 24th, and 42% of our families attended that. They met Hero the Husky, they listened to a story, rode the school bus. It was a pretty exciting time and played out on Bailey's with popsicles. And after that event, 6 new families toured our building. And then we had a total of 27 students transfer to LES this school year, 16 of them being kindergarteners. We are looking forward to opening and having an in-person open house, and I started to send out communication on that, where we will offer 2 nights to kind of make the groups a little bit smaller, since families will be in our building. But it's really important for us to have families in our building and view the classrooms, because that's what they want to do. The kids want to show the classrooms to their parents, to their families. So we'll hold that on September 29th and the 30th, and we'll try to space out our grade levels during those times. Mrs. Schumann is proceeding with our virtual informational band night, which will be on October 4th, and she will meet with parents to talk a little bit more about instruments and those lessons that we'll continue to hold this year. And then we are continuing on with our PBIS this year, our Huskies of the Month, PAW distribution, and Earned Spirit Days. We have had lots of new hires, and they are getting to know our community here at LES, and you've met lots of them at our board meetings. We're continuing with our safety drills, and we did hold one fire drill this past Friday, and the students were awesome during it, and they did a really nice job with that. We have students currently eating lunches in various different types of locations, but we're really trying to practice in a smaller setting, eating lunch in the cafeteria. We have grades 3 and 4 rotating in the classroom, in the cafeteria, and also eating outside on the picnic tables as well. We'll have Fire Prevention Week, October 4th through the 8th, and the fire department will work with us and present and have a program. And then for professional development, we also had a great day on August 31st, where our staff members participated in 2 presentations on Tier 1 universal assessments for social emotional learning and for academics. And our new staff members, Stephanie Roberts and Amanda Mansfield, presented on the social emotional learning, and Stephanie DeLucia presented on academics and how to do a great data dive at the beginning of the school year. So some exciting things at LES. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess.
Just the mini mutter is this weekend, correct?
Yes, it is.
Sunday?
Yeah, and it's really impressive how many people have registered. We're really excited about that. They just had a meeting back at the building too, so that should be awesome at 1 p.m. on Sunday.
And is it too late for people to register?
No. In fact, another information sheet is going out tomorrow via ThrillShare with the information. There's a QR code for registration.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jess.
Hello. Okay, so after an extremely busy summer in the department hiring personnel, I'm happy to say that we are up and running. I think for me as director, the thing that I take away from the first couple of weeks of school is, as I've been out in the different buildings in all 3 buildings. I've had staff members come up to me and just make positive comments about the new staff members that we've hired and the talent that we've brought into the district. So that's exciting. I mean, you just heard Jess report that 2 of our newest hires did a professional development presentation for the elementary school. We're off to a smooth start with students both in the district and students who are attending schools out of district. No huge glitches, which I'm always very thankful for. We're in full swing with PPTs already, offering them virtual right now at this time. For any of our new students who have transferred into district, we have to have PPTs for all of them before October 1st, because that correlates with compiling data for the State Department for our first report that's due October 1st, which aligns with our prevalence rate. So we have all that going on in central office. We're already in the process of updating our suicide and crisis response protocols with the school psychologist and the 2 social workers. I cannot tell you how happy I am to have 2 social workers in district for our students. And for Sabina Escott, who oversaw the whole district for, the last 4 years. It's just nice to have somebody else kind of on her island. We've had high-quality professional development that, members of the department have been engaged in. I'm preparing for teacher setting goals for their evaluations, and we're starting to navigate through defining continuing educational opportunities for special education students who may have to quarantine. So we're busy. So,
I have a question.
Any questions?
Yep, yeah. How are we splitting up the 2 social workers? Are they different buildings or?
Yeah, so we used the data from the BEST last year to kind of drive our decision-making of whether we needed another social worker in district or not. The data was pretty clear that we needed a higher level of support at the high school than what we had. So Sabina Escott is here full-time at the high school, where Amanda Mansfield is splitting her time right now between the elementary school and the middle school. She's 3 days a week at the elementary school, 2 days a week at the middle school. So I'm keeping a close eye on that right now, what those caseloads are going to look like for her. The teams at both schools have been phenomenal. They've already met school psychologist and Amanda and the school counselor at the middle school and kind of determined how they're going to divide the caseload, who's going to pick up IEP counseling goals and objectives, running of intervention groups for SEL based on the BEST, which we already started having conversation about how to roll that out. This will be year 2 for us for a universal social emotional screener. And I'm super proud of that because not every district did that last year. So, and we've decided to stay with the BEST again this year as opposed to what the State Department was recommending, and that came from the school psychologist, like them just, sharing with me why they wanted to stay with that. Plus, we still had 1,000 electronic seats to use, so I'm always mindful of using the money that we've already spent. So, any other questions? You know me, I'm like the...
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
I just have a brief couple of things. Danelle shared a lot about the curriculum component piece of the direction in our district, but there are a few other things that are addition to my position that I want to highlight. One in particular is the testing results that were, revealed by the state. We will be doing a presentation for the Board of Education in November regarding those results. In addition, on Friday, letters will be mailed out to those students that participated in the state testing, and I did accompany the individual results also with a letter from me highlighting, the pandemic and how that might have impacted the results, as well as some resources for parents that they could access. The other piece I just want to highlight is our professional development. We've talked a lot about professional development. We do have a district committee that consists of representatives from every school and in different content areas. And as the administration shared, we're so fortunate that we have so many teacher leaders who are willing to help present at these workshops.
we did have a summer meeting, which most attended, but we do have an upcoming meeting on Monday. And not only will we be planning our October professional development with input from the staff, but also we are adopting the teacher evaluation of the flexibility. So we have, we're doing orientations at faculty meetings or at PLCs so that the teachers are aware of the slight little changes to the teacher evaluations, and we can support them along the way. And then the last thing, my favorite of all time, we have mentioned new teachers. We highlighted them today. I am so fortunate to be what's called the District Facilitator for Team, which is where we sponsor and support our new teachers. And so how that works is I do want to highlight, we have 13 teachers in district that are formally supporting our new teachers. We also believe here in this district that although there are some teachers who do not have to take what's called team, and that's because they fall under a different category. So for example, like Amanda, right? She does not have to take this, she does not participate in the team training for initial teachers. However, we still believe that when you're new to district, that you need someone to go for, and so many teachers volunteer to be what we've called informal mentors, who can support them to ask like silly, questions that they might not want to bother their administrator or ask someone else, just someone that they can support them, even if they're just having a bad day. So I do want to recognize those teachers. I'm actually going to be, formalizing a nice letter to them for their file to thank them for supporting our new teachers, because it's hard. I just attended some new state training today. They're changing a little bit of the modules. And so, it's an additional assignment that new teachers have to do, and they certainly need their mentors to help them along the way. So, any questions?
Thank you so much, Rita.
Thank you, leadership team. Moving forward, just so the board is aware, they'll continue with the past practice of doing a written report and then just highlighting a few things as they see fit during this time.
Thank you. It's nice to hear from them.
It is.
As well, and to hear how the start to the school year went. So thank you very much for that. Moving right along to the report of the superintendent.
All right, thank you. We'll jump right into enrollment. You should have the figures in your packet. Just highlight a few things and then allow some time for questions. You can see we have a little bit higher number of pre-K students in there this year, and you'll see a small cohort of students moving now into grade 1. Just want to highlight the number in grade 4 because I know that there have been some additions in terms of positions. So now that number is divided by 4, creating class sizes of roughly 15. And then we move on to the middle school, grade 5 and 6. Again, if you take those numbers and divide them out, we're roughly 16 a class in grade 5 and 17 in grade 6.
Nice.
Next board meeting, we will get more into the details of specific sections and classes. Mr. Leskrzuski's already provided me with that, but as we talked about at the high school, add drop, we need to give a little bit more time for that. Any questions there?
We have 4 second grade teachers, correct? Yes. Do we have 4 second grade teachers?
Yes.
Or just 3? 4, right?
Count them.
We have 4, right? I just want to double check here because I see that number's the biggest right now.
Very good, Nicole. Do you have any other questions?
No, I see we're slowly climbing there, so that makes me happy. Good.
Yeah, so just another piece of information to dovetail there. I know we've had some conversation about homeschooling. There is another page in your packet there that breaks down the 37 who were homeschooled last year. We've tried a couple different forms of outreach. We do have the numbers listed there for 1 through 5. Obviously, we still have 13 people who have not yet responded to our communication. We'll continue to try, but it is good to see, we had 3 enroll even last year. We had 8 come back this year. 8 have moved out of town, so it's not like they're just not choosing to come back to us. Just another piece of information, we did have 8 additional students withdraw to homeschool this summer.
Thank you, Andy.
Very excited to talk about back to school. Before I get into some of the details I had down here, I did want to do a special shout out to the Lyman staff pulling up for the meeting tonight for our subcommittee meetings, to see the parking lot full, to see smiling faces from the families and students and the staff. The setup by the custodians was greatly appreciated. The staff was prepared and welcoming, and it looked like the families and students had a great time. So just a quick shout out there. But it's been awesome to have the kids back in person. That's what we all do this for. The year got off to a great start. Again, I want to publicly thank the custodians, the food service staff, our bus drivers, the instructional assistants, teachers, certified, non-certified staff. You heard from our administrators who are working extremely hard. Board members and parents. I think it was a total team effort. Stuff that had taken place prior to my arrival, but I feel like we've gained some really nice momentum, and it really has helped for a great start to the year. Mr. French had mentioned our building walkthrough in the previous subcommittee meeting. Thanks to the board for participating in that. There were no major issues that we saw as we were prepared to start the school year. We did take notes on some of the things that were mentioned, and we are working diligently to knock out those projects as well. Questions about back to school?
May I ask a question to the two teachers and Kathleen and Jeanette? How is it going with no remote learning and just in person at this time?
It's lovely, yes. It's so good to have the kids back in front of us, to have those more personal interactions.
Yep.
To be able to address their needs more immediately, not to have to worry about someone losing their connection, to have the screen wondering, is the child not moving or has their internet failed and now they're frozen? It's just wonderful to be in person, doing our jobs and making connections with kids.
Yeah, that personal connection, and also low numbers. I have 16 kids, and I just feel like I already know them all, so that is great.
And you're not using
So the kids seem very happy.
And you're not using the Chromebooks all the time? You're back to like paper and pencil activities as well?
Well, yeah, discussions, we can actually talk to each other in person, and we're able to, using the social distancing requirements, do some group work. So it's just wonderful. And I will say that for the 5th and 6th grade teachers, having that ability to really make stronger connections with their kids with a small group, I think is going to be really important as we work on some of the issues that came up being in distance learning, being in and out.
Thank you.
Perfect. Love hearing that.
All right, moving on to the next point here on the continuity of service plan.
If you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
I'm sorry. Danelle has a question.
Oh, sorry, Danelle.
Yeah, I just...
For Andy. You have a question for Andy?
Yes, I guess, sort of. Question about return to school. I appreciated what the elementary school is doing about integrating lunch waves. Moving forward, I was hoping that could be something done at the middle school as well, because right now they're eating at their desks, as far as I understand.
Sure, we can have conversations about that.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, continuity of service plan. Thanks go out to the students, staff, and families for their continued cooperation in following the mitigation strategies. Unfortunately, we have had to deal with a few cases of COVID-19 in district. These transmissions have been from out of school or in family situations and have not yet spread within the school. So I think the measures that we're taking are working, and we're always acting with the best interest and safety of our students and staff. That has required us, in some cases at the elementary school, to have classes out for the period of quarantine. But at the high school, we've been able to do some better contact tracing and keep most kids in. And that's our goal. We never want to sacrifice the safety of our students and our staff, but as you've heard from everybody here, having kids in person is what we want.
Any questions on the continuity of services plan?
If I could just add, I did send out a COVID-19 Q&A document today, trying to learn from my communication and our practice as we continue to cooperate through this challenging circumstance. Some of the questions that were there were questions that we had received from families. We'll continue to try to provide updated communication and get better at how we handle these situations so that it can work as seamless as possible in difficult circumstances. Additionally, facility. We did share the COVID-19 vaccination regulations. That's in compliance with Executive Order 13D, which has now been repealed and replaced with 13G. So more information will come out regarding that, but staff does have until the 17th to submit exemption requests or to share their plan to refuse the vaccine. All staff who are not vaccinated by the 27th will have to submit weekly testing to central office by Monday morning at 7 a.m.
Questions?
Andy, there's a new policy that's come out, G. Would you?
Not a policy, executive order, 13G.
Okay. Is that out or is coming out?
It's out.
Oh, it is, okay.
While I can't speak as expertly as maybe legal counsel could, it really did just clarify some of the things that districts, covered workers, people were asking questions about. Thank you.
Would you be able to share a link for that 13G for us, Andy, if you have that accessible?
I can send it tomorrow or in the Friday update, whatever you'd like.
Friday update is perfect.
Friday update, you
I
got
think we
it.
could all probably look it up ourselves, but it would be easier. Thank you. And is that all for the report of the superintendent?
It is, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That brings us to the facilities report. Mr. Frank?
Yes, ma'am. So I just want to add a couple things. In the elementary school, new classroom carpeting installed. All the classroom carpeting in the elementary school, the first grade wing and so on and so forth was removed during COVID. That has all since been replaced. So the children have brand new carpeting, thank God. The middle school, they're moving a telephone booth and the installation of a display cabinet. John Jarvis did an awesome job. If you walk by there, you'll see the display cabinet. It's a sight to be seen out, actually. And the installation of new soccer goals with Scott Elliott, John Jarvis, and people that actually have some volunteers. It was awesome. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the school food playing the last breaking and crack ceiling. I did not put that in the SIP and other. So we'll be talking about that, I guess, later. If there's any questions, I'd be willing to take it. Thank you.
Does anybody need clarification or have any questions on anything?
I just have a quick question as to the Lyman Gym. Why didn't we do that in the summertime? Why is it being done now? The Lyman Gym, why is it being redone now and not, why wasn't it done in the summer?
We haven't done it in the summer. It's been taking actually, that's usually a full athletic capital budget. And it's, they actually have the electrician come back and we're reshaping the floor again in spots. So this has been a process of, I'm going to say, we're going on 4 weeks now to get this gym floor in shape to actually get the lines and the floor in playable shape.
Yeah, I'm just curious why we didn't start that like in July. Was there a reason why we did it so late, Kevin?
Yeah, they lean forward to not cater.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
So where's the volleyball team practicing and playing?
Mr. Apicelli, would you mind speaking on where they're practicing and playing, please?
I think it's still on. The volleyball team's practicing at the middle school right now. And we would have had our first home game on Monday, but those home games were swapped with the other team. So we went to Bacon Academy, for what would have been our home game. We'll get a home game with them the second time we play them. And depending on how this goes, we're hoping that this process is going to be done on Friday, but that will impact another game on Friday, so we'll flip-flop with that other team as well. If you look, as you walk out, you'll see, they've got the lines for, the paint area for, basketball. They've got the mascot, at the center court. They're still just putting down the lines, for all of the other, like volleyball. I think they do like badminton too in there and all that, so.
So I assume the classes are being held outside for now?
Yeah. They're doing like a golf unit right now, so.
Yeah, I would have had the same question as Nicole. Why wasn't it done at the beginning of summer? Because then it gets the smell of the, it gets the smell out by then too. It's usually something that's done earlier.
Is there a projected date of when it's supposed to be completed, Jay?
Well, we thought it was, the process that they're doing is really extensive because we've had problems with the floor coming up. I don't know if you've been in there and seen that. Last year during one of the games, somebody in basketball did a jump stop and like an actual piece of the floor came off.
Jeez.
We went all the way down to the wood, and they used a different piece of equipment than they've used in the past. It looked like, I don't know what you want to call it, like one of the machines that they use on the floors in the, to wash the floor, except it was a sander and it had bags on the side that they collected the dust, so the dust wasn't going like everywhere when they were sanding down. So the process was really thorough in trying to get all of that stuff off so that we started with bare floor and we could just build off that.
Kevin, do you have any information on when that's going to be completed?
No, I don't. We're lucky, from what I understand from Daily Flooring, we were lucky to get this project kicked off and get it done by the fall of this year. We were one of the last ones to get it done.
I did reach out to another company just to try and see if we could get like an earlier date, and they told me they could not get in here before September. It was like the middle of September, so.
I'm just wondering, is basketball going to be affected?
No.
But you said you think this Friday.
I think possibly this Friday or early next week. I mean, we're close.
Okay.
We're close.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
I think, I speak for everybody, the timing wasn't ideal, but I appreciate to hear how thorough a job they're doing, and hopefully we don't have future issues and not have to address this again next summer. And I'm equally as happy that our kids are not missing opportunities for home games. They deserve to play in front of their home fans, so I'm glad that's being arranged.
This is probably to Kevin. Do you know if this company, because they're being so extensive, offer any kind of warranty on what they're doing, or is it just whatever?
Is that right, Rita?
Yes.
It's a one-year warranty. That's in our purchase order agreement, a one-year warranty.
Okay.
But, nonetheless, it depends on the use of the floor. In other words, if you go in there with rollerblades on a gym floor, as opposed to playing volleyball, then you're going to avoid the warranty, obviously. You can't be there on rollerblades and skateboards as opposed to sneakers.
Good thing those aren't PE units.
Yes.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any, Danelle, go ahead.
Just one more question about facilities. I noticed a bunch of the tents are still on the ground. Are those going to be going up soon?
Yeah, Mr. French and I spoke about that today with some of the weather events we had last week. He is anticipating they'll be up soon, correct, Kevin?
The tents are going to go up after tomorrow's storm. We have some strong storms coming predicted for tomorrow afternoon again. So, again, we try to put the tents up, but we don't want to put them up. We're going to take them right back down again or have them get blown away. So, the plan is hopefully Thursday, Friday this week.
Those tents were fairly pricey, and I remember us having a conversation about why we were investing the kind of money we were into securing them. Is there a reason why they are not upholding to the weather, even mild or thunderstorms that we had, they're coming down rather quickly for what we were told they would sustain.
The test was stand 30 to 40 mile an hour winds with the blocks and or the stake. When you get gusts of 50 or 60 miles an hour like we've had lately, all bets are off. We lost a tenant at the high school next to Jay's office. That tenant's trapped. That's the only time we lost. So out of 6 tenants, we still have 5 tenants. We're in a pretty good place.
But I haven't seen them up yet this year.
They have been up.
They have?
Mhm.
Pardon me?
Okay, I was just
We got it.
wondering how often they were up, but Andy has told me that they've been up.
Yeah, high schools are up. Middle school and elementary school are not been up.
Right, middle school particularly.
They'll be up by Thursday, Friday. That's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for facilities? Okay, we'll move right along to the finance report.
All right, Mr. Serpinski is not able to attend. He said if he was done with his meeting in Norwich, he would pop on. I don't see him, so I will try to do my best to stand in his place. Again, just want to thank him for all he's done to get us this far. The board is aware that we've moved a candidate forward. That candidate is doing some transitional visits and work and will be starting full-time on September 30th. So we will have somebody at our meetings to provide reports regularly moving forward. So in the report that Bob put together, just looking at the pre-audit year-end balance, look down at the first bullet, there was a year-end surplus of $111,271, and that was within the expected range that was forecasted in the spring by Mr. Sapinski. Total net cost for special education were favorable by a total of $193,224. Athletic transportation, game officials, professional fees, and coaching stipends under budget due to COVID-19 primarily, which was $64,454. And then electricity usage was below budget again, ending $11,212 below budget. And contributing factor was, many hours where buildings weren't in use. Bob also detailed the operational and instructional supply accounts, substitute salary expense, and got into some that were significantly over budget, which included legal expenses, healthcare, repair and maintenance accounts, heating expense, and specific salary accounts. He did provide me some sense of relief, saying that our spending year to date is right within the normal range and that we're looking okay. Obviously, we will have a more detailed report for this year's budget at the next meeting.
Matt?
I just am curious about one of the terms you used, specific salary accounts. What does that refer to?
They're listed there, I believe. I just didn't read them all.
Oh, no, is that in the list, the big list?
No, he does not have them listed. Would you like me to get a list of those specific
No,
salary
I
accounts?
just wondered what they were, that's kind of like a general term. I just was kind of like to get a feel for what.
Yeah, he did not list which salary accounts. So, if you'd like me to, I can get that information.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Andy.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Nicole.
Andy, do you think that the electricity usage was below budget due in part because of the LED lighting?
It could be a contributing factor. I think, Kevin could speak more to that than I could. But since he's not on the screen, I would say that that's a good guess, and I think this year we'll see even more so a change, that we could correlate and see if that's the reason.
But we also need to begin our payback, too.
And we will be using the buildings much more frequently than we did last year. So there's a lot of factors to consider, but yes, definitely hopeful that making all these lighting upgrades is having a positive effect.
Perfect.
Danelle?
I have a quick question, I hope. It shows we are under budget by $33,000 with substitute salaries. Now, this is great, except that it also means that we didn't have subs when we needed them. So as an operating question, what does that look like in a school?
So I would think that, again, last year, there may have been cases that the substitutes were not needed because of, how we started the year in a little bit of a different instructional model, or, possible quarantine things. But I can say that I think all the administrators would agree that staffing the buildings are hard, and that there's a shortage of substitutes, and on a day-to-day, that can pretty much consume an entire morning for an administrator, thinking about who can move where, or maybe even covering themselves. So I know that we've tried to increase how we're advertising for substitutes. I don't know if the administrators have any feeling for how this year has been so far.
Unfortunately, it's the same. We just don't have a big sub pool. So anytime it's unfilled, even if it's only one person, you're really having to figure out, because you're stealing somebody that's gainfully employed, and so piecing together how to cover a day, even with only one unfilled sub slot, is very difficult. And there's a lot of times it's, multiple, including IAs as well. We don't get subs for them often, so it's a puzzle every morning. And, I know I check it at like 5 in the morning to try to get my head in the game to figure out how I'm going to do this when I walk in the door. And it's just been the way it is for years. We just don't have a lot of subs.
I know just from being in area superintendent meetings and being a principal of a school just last year that it's everywhere. It is very difficult to find regular substitutes and to fully staff buildings on a day-to-day basis.
Are they still allowing 18-year-old substitutes?
There are flexibilities with substitutes this year as well.
Any other questions on either the 2020, 2021, or 21-22 budget? Okay, moving right along to new business. We don't do anything on this portion of the agenda, but would anybody like to have a discussion or ask any questions about the first reading policy number 5002, dress code? Dawn.
I'm wondering, is this from Shipman and Goodwin?
No, this is our policy. There was a discussion between the superintendent and the administrators at the high school, and they felt that this was a better way to handle things and let the administrators put it in their handbook. Because, we list masks here. Well, we have to wear masks, so that just, right there, that messes things up. And all these other things, it just made more sense to let them handle it.
Go ahead.
Dawn, if I could just speak to that. So yes, Shipman and Goodwin provides us with what they consider best practice, and in many cases, we adopt those, and that's where this policy generated from. However, some of the items that you see redlined and crossed out there, we want to be able to uphold our policies. If we have a policy, we want to be enforcing it actively. And some of the items that were in here were very difficult for our building administrators to be spending a good deal after they get substitutes and fill the classrooms. Now they're going to have kids take off jackets or windbreakers or, pullover sweatshirts that are in the policy that say they shouldn't be wearing, or hats. And I think this year in particular, we're excited to have the kids back, and we want them to feel like coming back to school is something that they enjoy. We're working extremely hard to get them to keep their masks on to stay safe, to be chasing them around for the type of jacket they have on, the hooded sweatshirt they have on, or even the hat has been an additional burden. So the building principals are going to handle that in their handbooks and in their own manner, but we didn't want to have it as a policy if we weren't going to be following up on it.
I'm just going to be honest, I won't support this. I feel like a lot of females are targeted in this, in their attire. So I'm happy to have further conversations about it, but I won't support it as it is.
Sure. Are you referring to the current policy or the red line?
I am not referring to the red line because that appears to not be what we're going to include. I'm talking about D through N.
Sure.
Yeah, just going back, this was something that was revised and the board put forth on February 9th of 2021. So all of these things were current policy. The red-lined items are things that we were considering taking out. So
Gotcha. I think I might have overlooked it because we were going through so many
Yeah, we
policies.
did a big
and approving
overhaul.
so many, but as it is, personally, I'm not going to support it.
Which means we would still be with the policy that includes A, B, and C unless we have a meeting and have further discussions.
To change the remainder of the policy. Would you suggest, Dawn, that the policy committee come back together to make additional changes?
And not if it's just me. I mean, I don't want to co-opt this, but when you look at it, spandex garments are allowed only if they're covered by shorts or skirts. Like, some of our athletic teams wear spandex, so and I understand it's only during school hours, but it goes to the fact that we're asking ladies to not wear tank tops or show their arms because that's disruptive. But why is that disruptive? Why aren't we addressing the bigger issue?
So is there any further discussion on this topic? Does anybody want to suggest that the policy committee take this back and have further discussion on the dress code? Oh, Nicole?
I'm going to speak that as a teacher, I personally agree with Andy about how I don't like to chase kids for their coats or jackets or their sweatshirts. And sometimes their sweatshirts, during this whole SEL time, make them feel comforted. And so if they have them on and they feel comfortable that way, then I don't see an issue with that because, as Andy said, I just like having them in my class. So I agree with you.
Thanks, Nicole. And Alexis?
If it's a handbook issue, I'm just concerned we're holding up the process, and it's already a current policy, so I'm kind of confused, and it is only a first reading, so, but I would definitely be in favor of the red lines coming out.
Okay. So we can continue to move forward and make this a second reading for next month. But then if, Dawn, in the meantime, or anybody who would like to put the policy back to the policy committee for revision can do so. Does that sound okay?
We could meet anyway. I'm sure there's other things we should address, just to see if there's anything else we want.
It's probably a good idea in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along to our action items. Action item number 1, act on letters of resignation.
I'd like to move that we accept the letters of resignation with regret.
Second?
Motion by John, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the letters of resignation with regret, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Action item number 2, act on security cameras. Do we want to talk about this a little further, Alexis, before we make a motion?
Sure. So I actually, in our meeting, I had to go back to previous minutes back in January 7th of 2020 when we had our security meeting where I had to correct the figures. I had a much higher figure, but when we initially went and did all the upgrades for the cameras, it was $52,550 for all 3 buildings. And we did take, portion of that came out of non-lapsing, and then some came out of capital. So we were going to leave it up to the superintendent to look for so he was going to give his thoughts on where we should take the money from. But you all have your It was given to us in an email of all where they were going to go, what cameras were going to go, and the total did come to 19, hold on, forgive me. Hold on.
I don't have an exact total.
No,
It's just over 19,000.
Proposals.
I'm sorry, what was that? Nancy?
It's just over 19,000.
Yeah, so it was the fact that we did have some blind spots, basically, and we really wanted to have complete coverage out of all of them and to continue with the project so that we were able to have eyes on all three schools. There was a big, for the barn here at Lyman, it was another, obviously, a pretty big issue. So it was our recommendation as a subcommittee to make that purchase and to act on that tonight. Did you want to mention where you were at?
Yeah, I would recommend that we take this expense out of capital as well.
Motion to act on the security cameras.
I'm trying to come up with a grand total.
Yeah, it is $19,585, sorry.
$19,585.
Yes.
So it's a purchase, right? So motion to act on the purchase of the security cameras, correct?
In the amount?
In the amount of $19,500?
85, yeah.
85.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion by Nicole to approve the purchase of security cameras in all three buildings for $19,585. Seconded by Mo. Any discussion?
Just a quick question, do we have to add to the motion that where the money's coming from?
Let's go ahead and do that.
Motion to purchase the security cameras for $19,585, and it is coming out of the capital account.
For all three buildings plus the barn.
For all three buildings plus the barn.
Okay. Nicole has amended her motion.
I agree to that.
Mo has seconded. Any further discussion? Danelle?
I think we need to include installation in that because the cameras are only $300 each. It's the installation that's the major expense. And I have a question, if we have any other bids for cameras and installation.
Do you have any other bids for cameras and installation?
Do we go out to bid for this kind of stuff or just take one?
This was the system that we had originally approved back in 2020, so it's just a continuation of phase 2 of what we've already done.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? No? Great. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the security cameras in the amount of $19,585 to be taken from capital, please raise your hand. That is Matt, Nicole, Dawn, Maureen, Alexis, John, Mark, and Sarah. All those opposed? Danelle? And those abstaining, no abstentions. That motion passes, thank you. All right, action item number 3, act on authorized signers of the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition programs. Andy's going to give us a little background.
Yeah, so the sponsoring organization, which is us, must execute an authorized signatures change form whenever there's a change to either of the two authorized signers. In this case, we actually have both. So I will be serving as signature 1, the designated representative authorized to sign the agreement for the child nutrition programs and to sign claims for reimbursement. And then signature 2 will be our new business manager, so we will be back at this again possibly next month.
Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved. I'm not sure exactly.
I was going to say, I'll move if I knew what I was supposed to say.
So we're making a motion to authorize Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Gonzalez to sign.
As an authorized signer of the ED 099 agreement for child nutrition.
As under signature 1.
as signature one. Motion by John.
Yeah.
Seconded by Maureen.
There you go.
Making me do all the work here.
Yeah, well, that's why I get paid the big
Any
bucks.
discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, action item number 4, act on the FFA field trip to the National Convention. Andy, do you have any background for us here?
Yeah, I'm just excited that we have the opportunity to consider approving this. You know, these are some of the things that our kids have missed now for a while, and this is a very important event as part of our ASTI program, our VOAG, you know, have an opportunity to participate in National Convention. We know the long-standing history and tradition and how well we've performed. I want to keep that going. Obviously, there are health considerations, and I think we need to be safe and follow mitigation measures. But, ultimately, this would be something that parents would be providing permission for their child to go to. So as a board, I would like to approve this.
Question?
Yeah, okay, first of all, is it in Indiana?
Yes.
And 2, I believe the Board of Ed has a line item for this, that we set aside money every year for this. Is that true?
I see a lot of nodding heads, but I don't see Bob Serpinski on.
I believe
Jay,
there's a
can you help
line
me
item.
out?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm very unsure, do we set aside like 3,000 or 4,000? 2. And then the rest of it is fundraising from the FFA, correct? Okay.
Thanks, Nicole. Great. Is there a motion on the floor?
Sure, I make a motion that we approve the FFA field trip to the National Convention.
I second.
Motion by John, seconded by Danelle. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the FFA field trip to the National Convention, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. And action item number 5, act on parking lot line striping and crack sealing. We did get a little background from this from Kevin during our subcommittee, and Nicole did a great job summarizing that meeting. Is there any further information, Kevin or Nicole or Andy, that you'd like to provide before anybody makes a motion?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to try to suggest and possibly clarify is where we take the funding from. So the 22,000 was planned. The 16,000 was not, the increase in the services. So I would recommend that we move forward with this because we are already off our 3-year cycle that we've talked about, but take the 22,000 from capital and the 16,000 from non-lapsing.
Would that be different, Andy, than what we had heard earlier with the...
Right, Kevin mentioned something different.
Motherboard?
Yeah,
So that money is still there in capital, but we have other capital expenses that we need to address. The increase in the job cost was not something we anticipated or planned for.
Danelle?
Can you explain why the price went up? I wasn't at the facilities meeting.
Kevin, do you want to jump in and explain why the cost went up? I know that we've been seeing this as a recurring theme with all of our contractors, but I didn't know if there was anything. I think you mentioned something about the hot...
Well, that's correct, Eddie. Anything that has to do with materials has been through the roof. Plywood, roofing materials, anything with oil, and this is oil-based, obviously, it's crack sealer. That's what has gone through the roof, is the crack sealer. It's tripled in price. So, and again, like you're saying, we're behind. This is the second year we're behind, so I'll be getting concerned that we're going to be replacing asphalt instead of doing maintenance to the parking lot, if you will.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It just makes me ask another question, although he answered it. We feel like we need to do it now, not wait. But if you wait a little bit, will the prices go back down? And number 2, might seem minor to some, but we do have a senior project that the parking lot was just painted, and now we're going to be going through some of their spots that were painted and...
Definitely asked that question today.
Yeah.
Right on the money.
So Kevin doesn't seem to think that is going to be an issue. The only concern I have with waiting is what Kevin has already expressed, that we run the risk the longer we wait of replacing asphalt and redoing the parking lot versus just crack sealing. And then we could be at a much bigger expense. Kevin, I know this is a very, very rough figure, but you had thrown around an idea of what it might cost to redo an entire parking lot.
Okay, so you do your driveway in your house, it's gonna cost you probably $10,000. We're doing, line striping and crack sealing of 30,000 square feet for $38,000. You're looking at probably $500,000 to do the, parking lot alignment. So, $38,000 is small change, as opposed to repaving the parking lot, obviously, so. And again, you saw the quote, it's so many thousand square feet, and, I think we should move forward with it as quickly as possible before Columbus Day or shortly thereafter.
Maureen?
I do believe he said that none of the parking spaces that the kids have painted are affected.
Yes, he did say that.
There's definitely a crack right through the middle of one, but I'm not going to...
The fact that the spaces, it's amazing.
Kevin, are you sure that this contractor will stay away from those newly painted spaces?
No, I can't guarantee that, but what I will guarantee is when I saw the John Jarvis little treaty crack, you look at the quote, there was the treaty crack prior to them actually doing the work. So we've been looking at a vinegar solution to kill the weeds, because it's, the schools was obviously not using any Roundup or anything like that. We'll be using like a vinegar water solution to kill the weeds. They'll come in there with high pressure air, blow the weeds out of there, then actually put the hot crack seal here and then cross patch it, like they said in the quote, to bind it to make sure no water gets in there moving forward.
Kevin, I'm sorry to complicate this, but, we just had a senior here that we celebrated for her engaged collaboration, and I know how important it is to our seniors. Is there a way, if we put cones or something around this area, we can protect those spots and possibly have them come back when whomever does the middle school next year and address those few spots?
Absolutely. We'll manage the contractor, as we always do. We'll manage the contractor.
Thank you.
Motion to act on the parking lot line striping and crack sealing at Lyman. Do I have to be specific with where the money comes? For
how much and where it comes from?
$38,000, and it is coming, the extra money that was not allotted for is coming out of the non-lapsing account.
I thought that was
You missed that part of the conversation, Kevin.
Kevin, we're going to take I'm recommending we do the $22,000 that was planned for out of capital and the increase in cost out of the non-lapsing account.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Nicole, could you just repeat that one more time?
Yep.
And just, would you mind separating the 22 out of capital and the 16 from non-lapsing?
Sure. So motion to act on the parking lot line striping and crack sealing at Lyman for a total of $38,000, $22,000 coming out of the SIP account, and the remaining $16,000 coming out of non-lapsing.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Nicole, seconded by John. Do you need me to repeat that for it? You want me to? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I do have my papers.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is Mark, John, Alexis, Sarah, Maureen, Dawn, Nicole, and Matt. All those opposed? All those abstaining? To now, abstain.
So,
motion passes.
Now that it's passed, can I just add a little caveat? That if we're doing less area, we've given them enough money to do the entire area, but if we're doing less area, the price should be less if we take out the space for the senior spots, correct? Doesn't that seem logical?
How many spaces are we talking?
I don't know, that's what I'm just asking.
We have to find that out first.
Because if they're gonna have to come back later and do it, they're gonna charge us again.
I'm just guessing there's approximately 20.
I'm just...
But do all of them have to be crack sealed?
I kind of wish this was talked about before we voted.
Regardless, we have to fix that parking lot.
It has to be fixed.
We're not spending $500,000 on a parking lot.
It's just...
And there's a 3% discount if we pay for the check or cash or check.
And this expires in 2 days. This bid.
So, we've already approved the dollar amount.
No, I wanted to wait till after, just to ask the question, because I didn't want to confuse things ahead of time. Because I want to get it done.
If it costs less?
Costs less, yeah.
Right, Kevin? You'll inquire about that?
The cracks that are on the pavement are actually outside the parking spot.
Okay.
Like I mentioned earlier, it looks like they're actually outside where the kids are actually painting those parking spots. If you walk through, you'll see that.
Okay.
I don't think that's an issue, to be honest with you.
Okay. Moving along, we're going to act on, the next item on the agenda is to act on the 2021-2022 Board of Education goals. And this is something that I asked Chelsea to put on the agenda because she brought it to my attention that we actually never approved these goals for this year, like we did last summer. So although we had a discussion to continue the goals from the previous year, we actually didn't change them. So they still said 2020 to 2021. And I asked her to act to put this on the agenda so that we could simply change the date on the Board of Education goals.
Motion to approve the 2021-22 Board of Education goals. Do you need a date on this? No.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Nicole, seconded by John. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor of approving the 2021-22 Lebanon Board of Education goals, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is an anticipated executive session for the purpose of reviewing the instructional